Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Red Raider outreach in Salt Lake City as Tech does the Utes every way but right. Some just ain't built for a Big 12 slugfest.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet only $5. And if your bet wins, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. Welcome back to God's country as the Red Raiders dispatch of the Utah Utes with great prejudice in a Big 12 conference opener from Salt Lake City. The thumping was on and completed as the Red Raiders improved to 1-0 in league play. On today's episode, we'll get to a lot of obviously what's there to process from Saturday. Chris, I do actually want to talk about what we saw on the other sideline as far as the test for Texas Tech. Some great marketing for Utah rolling into this one, no doubt about that. Did they live up to it? And how does it make us feel about challenges upcoming for the Red Raiders in the league? But obviously, it's all about the Red Raiders for the most part today. We saw some amazing things from a young QB who's had to step into live fire before on the road, did it again. He was certainly ready for that call. We're going to talk about, of course, all the right moves in just about all the right ways. Both sides of the ball, Chris. Defensively, you set the tone all day. Offensively, takes you a little while, but eventually sticking with the ground game, and you're breaking that open later on. That was the sight for sore eyes. And, of course, just the classic Big 12 slugfest that some are made for and some ain't. Sorry about you, Utah. Thanks for trying. Welcome back, Chris. Did you enjoy the day in Salt Lake?
More than you'll ever know.
I don't know. I've kind of got an idea looking at the smile on your face.
Yeah, more than you'll ever know. This was my hotel room key right here. I'm going to show you right here. This is and for those that are listening and can't see it, it's got the double T on it. It says 1-0 and it says "Why not us?" with a question mark on it. Usually, after you leaving the trip, whatever you throw those away, I will keep this one because this one wasn't about that you won as much as it was how you won, and there's a variety of things that we will get into, not just today, but this week. But we all knew this was a big one. It's not as big as some want to make it out to be, but it absolutely was a big one, and it was a prove it type moment. You'd created a lot of buzz over the last 9 months. And a lot had been said, a lot had been written, and I think people were ready to see what's up. And I don't know if you've you've silenced any doubter. I don't know if you have every believer, but we've all been there, Cowan, and we've seen this program kind of like have a hiccup and then build it all the way up, and then there's this game that shows up on your schedule, and it's like, okay, here you go. And then you can't quite do it. And there'll be another time for that this season would be my guess. But this was, even though so early, this was just one with a lot of attention and different context than you've had for a fourth game of the season in many, many, many years. And you've now started out 4-0 since 2013. And you've kind of said hello to the United States of America in a positive way. People now know who you are, know your name. Your name's going to come out of a lot of people's mouths in the next week or so, and all for the right reasons. And I just want to – I wish you and everybody could have been there because it was just one of those days, man, where it was just absolute gold. But when it's over, and I have guys like Howard Sampson walking up to me, almost like apologetic for the penalties and I've got to start faster. I'm like, dude, man, first of all, I'm looking up at him. I'm like, hey, man, congrats. Like Jacob Rodriguez just basically saying this is what we've worked for. And they're not really nobody was really that celebratory in the terms of big picture. It was all just like, this is the start. And it was a very business-like approach from a lot of these guys, but they certainly enjoyed beating Utah. And I think Kyle Whittingham shockingly had to admit his team lost the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And I think that those were his words. That's what he said after the game. I think he said something to the effect of, never in a million years did I think we'd lose the line of scrimmage, but we did. And they did. I mean, you owned it. Offensive line wise, maybe not near as much. You had your problems. You had your false starts. You had your holding penalties and things like that. But guess what? You ran the ball when you wanted to. You ran the ball when you needed to. You ran it at the goal line. And Will Hammond, certainly we'll get into that. He factored into some of that as well. But I thought, whether it was Barron or Will, they had some time to sit back there and make some of these deeper throws down the field. And I just, but your defensive front seven, really, because the linebackers deserve all the credit too. But your front seven was exceptional. And I think Utah in that first round offensive line and the best offensive line that Kyle Whittingham has said he's had ever. I think you beat them on a Saturday morning in their own stadium, and I think he was shocked by that. But here we are, man, 4-0.
And if you see our faces, you'll see a look of not being shocked by that. Texas Tech, coming out of the gates defensively, living up to exactly what they thought they were, what we thought they were, I should say. I'm sure they did as well. But, I talked about going into the weekend that I felt like Tech would win the game if what they had been so far in the trenches was for real. And it was for real. And specifically, that was more so on the defensive side of things, Chris. And I think we clearly saw it play out offensively where you had your hands full. Utah was allowed to try, and they created some problems. So they had something to do with that. I'll give them some credit. Number 90 was a real problem. Be glad to have him in Lubbock. I don't know what his eligibility is, but he was a real problem. So credit him. But eventually you do exert your will offensively as well as you go, I think, for 130 on the ground in the second half. And it only got better as you got into the fourth quarter. I think you were near 5.5, 6 yards per carry in the final two quarters. And that's how a ground game evolves. I wish it was all roses all the time, but certainly we've seen that kind of be tough sledding early in a game, but you stick with it and you begin to break it open and it pays off late. And that's exactly what happened. And credit to Cameron Dickey for a huge touchdown run where he decided, I'll go ahead and finish the play. The rest of you seem to be done. You're tapping out on this one. I'm going to go ahead and finish the play, and I'll finish it in the end zone. So that's just so satisfying, Chris, when you know that you have broken another team's will, a fan base's will. They were hitting the exits. I don't know what USA Today has to say about the updated Big 12 Stadium decibel readings today, but I think those figures might have changed. Thanks for cramming that down our throats over and over on the broadcast. But so satisfying to go on the road and shut a lathered up crowd up. I said that last week, and that's what Tech eventually did. But I do want to stick specifically defensively because what a sight for sore eyes. And I thought at halftime, as things were clearly still tight and you're feeling a little anxious about all the wasted opportunities, so many possessions starting at the 50-yard line, and you're not able to get points on the board. That's not a recipe for success. But at halftime, Chris, I felt like you're winning the battle at the line of scrimmage defensively. Zero doubt. It's a little more give and take offensively, but zero doubt that defensively you were winning that battle. And I'm just telling myself, well, this bodes well for the final two quarters. Whatever it's going to look like, I don't know, but it bodes well that you have been handling your business. And what a combination. We saw the law firm in action again. Hunter, Holmes, Gil Howard. And I talked about it on the postgame show yesterday, Chris. It's just so fun to look at that trio or even the duo of Gil Howard and Hunter because they're so different from a measurable standpoint. But I couldn't ask for anything better than what those guys have been giving you up front. And yeah, you can extend that to the 7 as well. Because the stat line for guys like Roberts or Rodriguez just through a quarter and a half or so, I'm thinking this is a full day for a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I would even I thought your two safeties were exceptional in this game. Brendan Jordan, Cole Wisniewski. They had as much to do with Devin Dampier not getting loose on any kind of crazy runs or anything like that as anybody, and they got the run game like really stopped. That's a team that was rushing for 290 yards a game, and they just really had no answers for you. And it just was, collective effort. Your coordinator has been in these kinds of games before against these kinds of attacks. We talk. I know that it was mentioned on the telecast as well, but when we talked about this on our broadcast as well, but.
First, today's episode brought to you by The Game. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, say in the 80s or the 90s, what hat do you see yourself wearing? Could it be this slick-looking lid I'm rocking right now from The Game? Yes, that's the correct answer. It would definitely be this one. These aren't just hats. They're the vintage Americana we grew up with, the same style fans wore in the days of our youth. And guess what? They still go for the same price now that they did back then. Just go to thegamecaps.com and use our code LOCKEDON, and you're getting this classic tech cap for only $16.99. Again, that's at thegamecaps.com with our promo code LOCKEDON for this vintage Red Raider lid and a whole lot more for only $16.99 right now at thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or circle retro design and use our code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because legends only wear the game. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered, and it's quick, easy, and secure every time. Ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
It was mentioned on the telecast as well, but, when we talked about this on our broadcast as well, but he felt like this would be very Service Academy-esque in that it's a lot of window dressing, a lot of smoke and mirrors. They're going to run the same kind of plays, but they're going to try to out-formation you. And how they get their runs is that somebody doesn't have a gap filled, and they just try to confuse you. So this was a mental game as much as anything, and that's why I like your linebackers so much. These guys are all very, very smart, very intelligent, studied, and they're very well coached with Coach Wood. But, Curry, Roberts, Rodriguez, I mean, that's this kind of game was right up their alley from that standpoint. And they've got so much help up front that it just all working in tandem. But I did want to also add in that I thought Wisniewski and Brendan Jordan, because they were really good in the run game. Yes. There was the one time where you got beat over the top, but that ended up being a legal man downfield, and they call it back. So I just because and this is why we don't get paid to coach, but I think we had kind of wondered aloud last week, would you load the box up and just show them like, hey, you're not running it, try to beat us with what I think most people feel like is a pretty average group of receivers. But what they did is they kind of actually sat back a bit and said, we don't want you to ever see the back of our jerseys running and chasing a bunch of guys. You're gonna stare at us, Devin Dampier. You're gonna have to sit back and, like, if you want to throw it, monitor and if you watch the game, everything that he throws is at the hashes or at the numbers, like on the outsides of the field. He's a shorter guy, and nothing really goes over the middle ever. And I think they were going to try to use that to their advantage. You hear the term leverage and all these things, but they were willing to give them some of those throws or not stress about those, but they were going to take the QB run game away, and he just didn't. He didn't hurt you much at all there, and I think that you forced him in a couple of throws that he was uncomfortable with, and I guess I thought that he would be better, but that may have a lot to do with you. He just wasn't this dynamic, like, oh my gosh, he scares me to death kind of player. And does he lack weapons? Is that all to do with you? I don't know. I'll let everybody else kind of sort through that, and we'll see how that plays out. But I just thought you had him game planned, I mean, to a T, and you never really got confused. You never, just like there wasn't much blown assignment going on there, and that's a credit to Coach Wood and the intelligence of your linebackers and your safeties, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can only think of one, and Utah missed on it on the throw where they had a guy that was wide open and probably would have been at the house. Texas Tech had the same thing later in the game with a throw maybe on the wrong shoulder or whatever, but c'est la vie, that's the way it goes. 3.3 yards per carry for Ute ball carriers. I guess I forgot about Tech even having a sack, but that's only one sack involved, so it's not like you're seeing a bunch of sack-adjusted rush numbers. You shut him down. I thought he would be better, and I also thought you would combat that still, but maybe you combated it even more effectively than I was thinking, because he was just – I mean, he's almost a non-factor, and the ground game at large a non-factor.
Yeah, and it's hard to get sacks because so much of their stuff is quick game. I mean, it's like balls in his hands and, like, it's out. I mean, that's just kind of what they do. And we'll talk about that whenever you want, Cowan. But I will be real curious to see kind of what their trajectory is going forward. They are very good on defense. I won't take that away, or at least they were for 3+ quarters. But the dam broke eventually. That they are big and physical, and the linemen. I mean, I stood out there at the coin toss at the beginning, and you sent out Howard Sampson and Lee Hunter, and they had 3 of those big linemen out there and one of their linebackers out there. I was like, oh, this is going to be a big boy game right here, because there was plenty of size and physicality and all those kinds of things. But I just thought you contained everything. Everything was in front of you, and you just never you never blinked.
I want to go back to those DBs. You mentioned the safeties, but whether it's Pollock or Balfour or some of these other, I think you're a sound tackling team on the outside. I'm not seeing and there's some good individual tackles one-on-one in space. I remember, I think Pollock had one or maybe a couple of those. Jordan had several of those that stood out. I'm thinking, watching the game yesterday, Chris, about some of those days where tackling was an extreme issue. And I was just thinking, man, obviously the interior guys and your linebackers are, but even the DBs I feel like are just tackling really well. So that goes a long way, right? No yards after the catch, yards after contact type of stuff.
Yeah, I always, Jashawn Johnson, former safety here, he's on the coaching staff now on the defensive side of the ball, and I always tell him, because we've joked about this before, I always tell him, you're one of the best open field tacklers I can remember in this program, and that's an honest statement, or my opinion. And just because, but he would lead the team in tackles far too often and things like that. But even he would tell you that a lot of these guys are as good as he is, because you're right. It's just, and I thought really, for the most part, both of these teams tackled really well. I mean, how many times on offense did you you're like a step away, or you just, you're down. And that's kind of, you had a lot of that going on yourself, but
yeah, outside of the Jacoby, the big play really early on, and then Dickey later, there wasn't a whole lot of yards after contact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and credit to Cam, man. I mean, salute to that young man, because he walked in the end zone on the first touchdown, but then that other one, I mean, that's what you call finishing a run. I mean, it's just like that's a teaching tape that everybody should show. Like, you just don't quit, and he just kind of kept going, and him and Jacoby are really growing up right in front of you. They're showing some of this patience. I think they were really good with pass pro in this game yesterday.
Yeah,
and I just thought they were finishing runs, and it's kind of a fun little monster that you've kind of put together. And there were some holes for those guys to run through as well. And I thought your your play caller, Coach Leftwich, and there may be a few that he'd love to have back. I know there's some throws that they would love to have back too, but I just thought he kind of kept it off balance a lot. And we'll get into the penalty thing and the silent count or the false starts and all that stuff as we go, maybe tomorrow. But it was a well-rounded game by, just your team, your team in general, and that's what this was, man.
All phases, and we will get to the kicking game and what we saw Saturday, what that means for that conversation this week. But Jack Burgess as well. I mean, I was telling the buddy I was watching it with, I'm fine with being K-State. We'll defend your asses off. We'll flip the field, pin you deep, get it back, and we'll keep trying from the 50. It may take us 10 possessions to get a couple of touchdowns, but I'm fine with continuing to flip the field and dominate field position. And I will say, Chris, I think you mentioned the pass blocking. Unfortunately, it happened on a play where you turned the ball over. I think it was the pass that was a little underthrown and bounces in the air, the first Morton interception. But I think it was Jacoby Williams who leveled the guy that was coming into the backfield. I shouldn't say leveled, but he delivered the contact. And I thought, all right, here we go. Here's a little pass pro improvement from some weeks gone by. Unfortunately, the play didn't wind up where you wanted it to. But you're big play certified. I mean, we're giving Utah all this credit, and they deserve some as far as the yards after contact or after the catch is concerned. But you are big play certified. You had 7 through the air, over 15. You had 7 on the ground, over 10. Coming into the weekend, Chris, a lot of these statistics as far as explosiveness for your offense, they were flashy, but they were against Tom, Dick, and Harry, with all due respect to Tom, Dick, and Harry. So I think we're all just wondering, what does it look like when you actually get in the Big 12? Well, you were still dynamic. You were still big play oriented. And, man, I can't believe that we've been able to advance that cause. What seems like so quickly. Like you took a step forward, I think, last year in that area, and you're just continuing trending in that direction, because it wasn't too long ago. Remember, we're begging for no 12-play drives. We're begging for some explosive play here or there.
Yeah.
And you're cooking in that department now.
Yeah, I mean, you have weapons all over the place, and you've got a play caller and quarterbacks that will find them, and you've got guys that will win some of these matchups that, it's a 50-50 type scenario, and they'll just go make the difficult play, and it all showed up.
Hey, can I ask you, speaking of the play in a big play, Terrence Carter's touchdown, I've been wondering, I hadn't asked you about this yet. Was that the same play that we saw him get so wide open he didn't know what to do on the sideline a couple of weeks ago, or did it just kind of look similar?
It was, but the inverse. I mean, it was on the opposite sideline, but similar concept, yes.
Somebody might want to study that on tape, because so far he's been in his own zip code both times you've ran that one. And thankfully yesterday it worked out, or Saturday it worked out.
And we'll get into this too at some point, but the bye week is desperately needed for someone like Terrence Carter. That is one tough hombre. I'm just going to tell you, one tough hombre. He is coming over to the sideline. He got hit in the thigh, which did not look good. It's just one of those dead leg type hits, just right on the spot. And he's like kind of limping, but as he went down, it's like, okay, we're gonna test our shoulder again when we fall, and so when they took him to the locker room, bring him back out, and they were it wasn't his thigh as much because that went away, but it was more of the shoulder thing. He's over there getting his ankles retaped again. He's on the bike. He's got these bands just stretching out, and he missed a few series, but he just came back, and he was as big of a factor in the second half of this game as anybody. I mean, that is, and he's a guy too that just after it was over, he wasn't jumping up and down like they'd won the Super Bowl. He was very businesslike. I think he's sore. He's hurting. But, man, can he play ball, man. I mean, man, and we tried to say this all summer, but he is a problem. He will continue to be a problem. And just get that man healthy, because he's just such a mismatch. I just he and the smile on his face, while not being just over the top, it was just, I don't know if it was relief. Okay, glad I don't have to go out there and put my aching body through it anymore. But man, I mean, his toe tapping a week ago, his big play, his contested catch the blocking he's involved with, and just the injuries he's battling through, because he's got an AC joint. Those are extremely painful. And it is not ideal when you're trying to play football as physical as that game required you to do. But he did it and didn't ask for anybody to feel sorry for him, and he continued to produce. So
all the pass catchers, man. I mean, at various points they had their moments, whether it was Aiken or Douglas or Virgil, who got jobbed on a sideline catch that should have been a catch. But before we get out of here, Chris, we got to reserve some time for a big salute to Will Hammond. And I do want to reserve even more time this week to talk about implications for the quarterback picture at large. And, of course, what we're anticipating as far as Baron Morton's week upcoming. But the dude just refuses to flinch. We've seen him have to step into some big moments, and he was on the road in Fort Worth having to do that a year ago. So not the first time, but I don't know if you could have just put him in a numberless or nameless logoless helmet and jersey anywhere in the country and said, this is a Power 5 starting quarterback, right? That anybody would have said, no, he's a backup. Because he didn't look like a backup. He looked like he was ready to roll and made for that, man. Incredible effort from him. First, today's episode brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar, the coffee shop, or the corner store that's been serving your neighborhood for decades. These are the kind of places that bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world, including some local favorites in the 806 like Shadow Hills Golf Course, The Outdoor Chef, Quarter Ford, Lubbock Welding Supply, Sugar Bakers, and a whole lot more. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more today. But before you do, go support your favorite local spot. Powered by Square. See you in the neighborhood.
We've been asked a variety of questions over the last 6 to 8, 9 months. Even recently, we were asked, "Hey, are you going to go get in the quarterback in the portal?" On one of the mailbag shows that we did, like this coming December, you're going to get and I was like, the last person you have to worry about on this roster is Will Hammond. Even after a not a great start by I'm sure he would tell you the same thing in the bowl game. Everybody was like, okay, here we go. It's Will Hammond time. And okay, let's see it. And it just wasn't what he had hoped it would be. And it wasn't what anybody would hoped it would be. It wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't some of these things that you've seen, in Fort Worth or there in Salt Lake City. But he just doesn't flinch. He's always extremely prepared. He's very professional with how he approaches things. He's been this way since the day he walked on campus. And quarterbacks are typically just very different. And he's got it all mentally like how you want it. But his ability to run the ball does add a different dynamic. There's no doubt about that. And that's why I think you see, and you'll continue to see, Coach Leftwich, regardless of who the starter is or who's healthy or whatever, Will Hammond will be utilized in the red zone, I think, for the remainder of the year in this, just like we talked about last week. I think that's a wrinkle that they're going to commit to, and you kind of see why. I mean, but
he's the whole wrinkle. He can be the whole wrinkle.
Sure. But I'll say this too, and I know we'll save the bigger picture conversation, but we had said all along, there's a reason why you added Mitch Griffiths here too. You're going to need all these people. This isn't about one guy or who the backup is at any position. It's going to require all parties and all individuals to get to where you want to go. You don't know when adversity is going to hit. You don't know what that's going to look like or anything. And it just, you've been through this. So there's a reason why when Joey was asked about multi-year contracts back in the summer, remember? And I mean, I don't know if we'll do that or not, but if there's one guy that I'd like to do it with, it's probably like a guy like Will Hammond. I mean, he gets it, and Will gets it. And it's just fun to see him because I think he had a ton of family there that actually live in Utah.
Hammond did?
Yep. And there was a ton of family there that was there at the game yesterday. And he showed up. But like I talked to Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger before the game, who was there at the game covering it and everything like that. And that's a sign that this was a big deal, because a lot of times, these national outlets, they'll send guys to certain games, and you can't be at every game, right? But this is the one that they send him to, and he wrote it after the part of his headline is like Texas Tech's roster and their quarterbacks, in parentheses, showed up, and that's what it's going to take really from here going forward. You're going to need all parties. You just don't know what that is going to look like or in what form or whatever, but you're protected. You're covered. And I'm telling you, I know people have never seen it and they're just going to take our word for it. If you send Mitch Griffiths out there, he's going to run around and make people look silly a bit too. He's a very mature, capable, power force starting caliber quarterback. And so that's why it just make you sleep a bit easier. And they were intentional with this, because you've got quarterback injury syndrome thing going, right? That we've all dealt with over the last decade. So, but that's why you did what you did. And, but yeah, good for Will, man. I mean, he's just an impressive young kid, man, and his future is bright. And he's going to be the face of this thing, in the next couple of years. But he got his moment. We'll see if there's more of those to come.
Is the future now will be the question we'll discuss this week. It just looks so different coming off his hand. It's not even about the mobility wrinkle to me. It's about he's an incredible passer, putting it right in the breadbasket several times. I love the call where he gave one on the money to Caleb Douglas. He didn't bring it in. He says, "I'm giving you another one. Same spot. Just go do it again." And so he brings the second one in. I said last week afterwards when we got to see Hammond a little bit in the post-game conversation, the ball just always looks different coming off his hand to me than it does Morton's for whatever reason. Maybe just some God-given ability. I don't know. But questions already about a QB controversy. There's no controversy in my mind. We all know what the right answer is, and I'm sure we'll reconvene to agree on all of that on an upcoming episode, Chris. Before we wrap it up, though, thought coming into this game, is this a battle of 1 and 2 in the Big 12 Conference? Texas Tech certainly looked like one of those two. Did Utah live up to that, or what did you make of the Utes in person as far as them trying to remove themselves from the cellar in the Big 12 and maybe rejoin the ranks of something relevant?
I do think they are good because they're going to be good on defense every game out. And I think that offensive line, while you made them look average or not dominant, I think that comparatively with who they play, they will still do plenty of damage. My concern for them is their lack of explosiveness on offense. My concern for them is they've got a lot of people playing two ways, okay, more than I'd ever seen. I think there's like 5 players that are playing semi-key roles on both sides of the ball. And so my question would be, will they be able to hold up through the rigors of Big 12 play this way? Because any injury is twofold with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And you're asking them to do a lot, but they're kind of, again, these players deserve credit for being able to do it. And I think you're trying, it's almost like varsity high school football. But there's you're almost kind of telling on yourself a little bit, going, man, we would love to have the equivalent of what you can do for us on this side of the ball, but we don't. So we're going to ask you to do both. And I just think they lack some offensive playmaking that I think could eventually hurt them. And if they continue to run Dampier, if he's, because if he goes out, I just it would hurt them tremendously. They're good up front, there's no doubt, and they're gonna win a lot of home games, you think, because they haven't won one yet in the Big 12 Conference. But it was a good environment. I won't dispute that. It was loud. It caused you problems. And so I think that they will, be a mess to contend with for everybody else. But that's not Texas Tech's problem anymore. Everybody else can go deal with that now. But they've got a tricky trip to Morgantown, West Virginia, coming up this week. So we'll see. I guess I'm not just sold that this is some sort of rematch. I guess I'm not sold that they are just all world like, some wanted to paint them to be. But maybe that's because you were so much better than they were in certain phases, or you eventually got to that point too. But They were legitimately, and they have draft picks, plural, on their team. So that cannot be taken away. But I guess I am not going to back off of what I had said all summer, in that I think Arizona State is the biggest problem on your schedule, and I still feel that way. So we'll see what that looks like. And before we go, Callan, I just want to, I mentioned this earlier, but I just hope people realize that when you see a guy like Cody Campbell outside the locker room, and you see a guy like Gary Peterson, who made a lot of this happen, and you see Joey McGuire, and there's real emotion there, and real, I don't know, you call it excitement, relief, stress, whatever. That is awesome. And just watching some of that, because I was waiting to talk to Coach McGuire, and Cody and I were just in the hallway all by ourselves right before Joey was going to come to me, and then Joey was going to go into the press conference, and Cody was going to be at the back there. But I am glad that Cody Campbell was very happy yesterday. And I saw Gary Peterson walk by, and I just said, hey man, I know I'm not speaking by myself here, for everybody here. Thank you for what you helped put together here, because it's those guys that really allowed this to happen. And it's you've got a hell of a head coach, man, that is gluing it all together, and the pieces seem to fit pretty well. And you've got a team that legitimately does care about each other, and that's not lip service. Joey is a master leader and culture builder and a connector, and yeah, it all kind of spilled out for everybody to see on a Saturday morning in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody, I know it might have looked like they were gutless and nothing unique or special about them when they were emptying out the stands, hitting the exit, and it was all crickets in the stadium. But remember, that's a very special fan base, very special home environment. I want to remind you, in case you forgot, when it was nothing but aluminum that was visible, maybe outside of some pockets of Red Raiders there at whatever Eccles Stadium. Chris, thank you for your time. Glad you made it back to God's country. The open week has arrived, and thank you to Coach McGuire and the Red Raiders for giving us something fun to stew on, because we were going to be stewing regardless for an extended period of time. But I'm glad to parse this one over and over for a little while with you, and we will talk about some of the bigger implications leaving this game on our next episode. I want to talk about this open week and the impact for Texas Tech, needed, unneeded, how we're kind of gauging that at this time when it arrives. And, of course, we're going to talk about some bigger picture things with your quarterback conversation, what they anticipate for Baron Morton and Will Hammond moving forward. I want to talk about a bigger picture conversation regarding your kicking game, as well, as Stone was just Stones teabagging Joel Klatt figuratively on national television. So we got to revisit that conversation as well, and a whole lot more this week, man. So it's an open week for the football schedule, but it is a locked and loaded week for Locked On Texas Tech. Chris, looking forward to the next one.
Hashtag thumped, hashtag blessed, and hashtag karma is undefeated. Talk to you next time.
All due respect to everybody out there in the audience. For Chris, I'm Casey. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the everydayers for always riding along. Thanks to the Matador Mob for partying late night on the patio. Once again, hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial if you're interested in joining that crew. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.